Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we ended up continuing the main story, got the rosary from Uther and used his tomb and used it to open the seals to the stasis chamber on the Martyr, and now we're just heading back to go inside.
What do I have to do to wake up the Alpha Pariah from stasis?
My understanding is that the stasis pods are stored in a colossal shaft. You must activate the retrieval mechanism at the cogitator first. I'll guide you through the rest after that. But there is something else.
What is it?
In loaded schematics, place a room near you as Uther's meditational chamber.
I will take a look at it.
Did you find...
I'm at the cogitator.
Alright, so now we got all that little story bit out of the way. Big news! April 1st, of all the days Games Workshop could have announced something, they picked April Fool's Day to announce that the SQUATS have returned. Now they got renamed because you can't trademark squat. We know Games Workshop. If they can't trademark it, they change the name. That's why Space Marines became Adeptus Astartes, why Imperial Guard became Astra Militarum, why the Sisters of Battle became Adeptus Sororitas. Every group got renamed because you can't trademark the normal ones, and they didn't like that. But the SQUATS are back. I'm excited. They're now the
Emperor.
League of Votan, or Votan.
What is happening? The Alpha Pariah.
Say what you will about the name, it's kind of lame, but I mean, we got dwarves back. I'm eager to see what's going to come of them. You know, how are they going to be represented? Because they could... I see three possibilities. You have them being essentially sci-fi fantasy dwarves. And what I mean by that is, like, you have gyrocopters, but you replace the blades with little turbo, like, hover engines. You have all the standard, like, Warhammer Fantasy style ideas, just, you know, different. Everything gets a sci-fi skin, essentially. It's doable. I could see it. Is it a good idea? I mean, it's one of those things where I'll say it can work. The other option is they're effectively a reskinned Imperial Guard, which I can also see. Would I be cool with that? Kinda? I guess the thing is, how do they play? Are they a step between Imperial Guard? I want them to be a step between Imperial Guard and the Space Marines. You know, not as many in number, but beefier per unit. I think that would be probably the best route to take them, because then they still stand out and you actually have an incentive to use them over Imperial Guard. And if you wanted to and you want to be real fancy, you could have some modularity to them and be like, hey, if you play IG, you can use these guys too. You know, it's kind of hybrid armies. I think that'd be the coolest thing. The other possibility is they're completely different. You know, they're sci-fi dwarves, they're their own thing, or they're redone IG. Regardless, I'm interested. I hope they keep the old lore, except for the whole getting wiped out. I mean, you could even justify, like, the getting wiped out by the Tyranids by being like, oh, well, their home world is gone, but the guys that remain were elsewhere, they were colony ships, they were whatever. And this explains why they've been gone. Or you just BS it and say warp storm. You know, everything gets sucked up into a warp storm at one point or another. Is it a good explanation? Hell no. It's terrible. It's the biggest cop-out I can think of. But it works. Man, good thing this base just this ship happens to have a giant three-headed flail hanging from the ceiling to drop into his hands. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be cool having them back. It's about time we got a new faction, but at the same time, a little disappointed it's not Space Skaven. Still waiting. And also, I feel like some other factions could do with some love still. You know, I feel like Imperial Guard haven't gotten anything new in a good while. Even if it's just like reduxes of models, I'd be cool with it. Just something to mix it up, you know? Yeah, that's gonna be cool. There isn't a release date yet. We're still kind of sitting on a wait-and-see thing. They're like, oh, hey, here's like one model, one like infantryman, and that's all we have to go off of right now. So we don't know what their vehicles are going to look like, what the rest of their units will be. There's always hope, though. This does, in a way, kind of feel like it's almost setting up for what I had talked about a long time ago. And I mean, we were seeing people talk about it lore-wise, that we might see, like, the collapse of the Empire of Man. Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Like, yeah, it sucks. Empire go bye-bye, but you can still have effectively everybody else still doing their thing. Hey lady, are you gonna like attack anybody, or are you just good vibing right there? You're just hanging out here like, yeah, this is my spot now. But I think the collapse of the Empire isn't necessarily bad, because nothing is going to change. Like, oh, there's Imperial Guard here and there. They're already fighting countless wars, effectively being independent of each other. Same as Space Marines. Space Marines operate just kinda on their own deal anyways. So them suddenly not having as much of a high command is not a big deal. And if they really want to, this would be absolutely insane, but if they wanted to go crazy, they could say, hey, we're going to, lore-wise, remove the restrictions and allow the recreation of legions. Oh no, he's inverting into himself. Bye-bye.
She has banished the greater demon.
Yay, free stuff.
Who are you?
I
could...
You are...
Come on, let's speed this up a little bit. Yep, there we go.
Klosterheim, what I
Accept my apology.
open that door.
Don't you see?
This is heresy.
Yep,
You
Klosterheim
have no power.
Quite the
snags her and
I'm ready for.
they go by.
Take priest. I want. I don't.
There is a
Then we will.
collated data.
Curses.
Inquisitor, you have returned. What happened?
I found
The what happened?
I have.
I just love that cutscene. I think it looks
We
really
received
cool.
an urgent message.
Inquisitor, since you're...
Yep, everybody's
We have received word from
storylines,
various
and this
rogue-
picks up with the Prophecy DLC storyline. I'll actually quick go through my inventory, what I got. I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad either. What's my other one looking like? Oh yeah, that's definitely something I'd rather use. Oh, that execute enemies is going to be a pain, but whatever. We'll make do. Force sword. Biomantic sword. Color me interested. I can't use it yet, but I'm interested. I'm gonna lose that loot quality, but I'll take it because my max suppression goes up a ton. I mean, actually very little in reality, because it levels up with you. So whatever, I'm not gonna use it then. Get rid of everything else, though. And let's continue with this investigation about the Martyr.
Tech priest. This Imperial facility has been abandoned for a very long time. Are you certain the Alpha Pariah is here?
The beta burst from the machine spirit was an emergency signal. The Alpha Pariah left the Martyr to follow an unidentified Vox transmission originating from these coordinates.
I need more information on this place.
Cursory data.
This must have been one of the secret designated to aid his pilgrimage through the universe.
But, as I was saying before the cutscene and everything happened, I feel like you could, if they have the Empire kind of collapse and Space Marine chapters can reform legions and do their own thing to a degree, I think it'd be really cool. It could also kind of open the floodgates for a lot of old, like, Horus Heresy tech to come back.
These Eldar Our specimen
Because then they could say,
belongs to any
oh,
craft
well,
world listed in the
what
photos of the
happened
unholy in the
is...
ship databanks.
I must investigate these.
Like, there's a lot of locations. I know The Rock for the... I think that's Dark Angels, their fortress, or Fortress Monastery, has a bunch of vaults and a bunch of old stuff in it. There's a... I know a couple other chapters have similar things where they have a fort or bunkers or monasteries just full of old tech that they're just like, yeah, we kind of forgot half this stuff is here anymore, so we don't use it. It could easily be a thing of these chapter masters and everybody going, hey, we don't have the Empire anymore, we need to become more self-reliant, and then starting to kind of dig through their own storage, finding old Horus Heresy weapons. Wish I could remember the name of them, but there's essentially like the precursor to Devastator squads, but they were individuals who had like radiation weapons and all this stuff that was frowned upon. You know, seen as dishonorable and what have you. But, you know, when you're killing the enemies of mankind, you don't really care. And it's such a cool idea that I'm just kind of sitting here going, why don't we bring that stuff back? And the fall of the Empire would be the perfect time to do it. And other things you could have Space Marines to a degree fighting each other for control. You know, these are different factions who may not get along with each other normally, and they're having to fight for resources or forming alliances to control a few worlds to protect the civilians and try to rebuild the Empire. Do I see Games Workshop doing that? No. That would be... I think it'd be too much of a departure from their existing lore, but I think it'd be fun. And I think that's the big thing, is there needs to be a shakeup. The... What is it? The giant void storm, or warp storm that divides the Empire and the Dark Empire now. It's cool, but at the same time it just feels kind of boring. Because the whole big thing is, oh no, these planets are cut off from the Astronomicon and all this. Okay. I think a big problem is we don't have a lot to showcase. Like, there aren't a lot of 40K games going into that. There isn't a lot of stories being told to really hammer home the point of, hey, this is bad. And even then, you look at... Let's look at Necromunda. How many people planet side, especially down in the Underhives, would notice a difference? Like, how many really would have the ability to take the time and go, oh, hey, we're not, you know, hearing from this part of the Empire anymore. Most of those guys are busy fighting rival gangs and trying to deal with, like, redemptionists and stuff. They don't have time to care. Stuff like that whole warp storm, it feels like a problem in a grand scale, but in many situations on a minor scale it's negligible. Unless you're sitting on that edge where you're interacting with planets that are now cut off, or you need resources from a planet that's now cut off, that's the time I think it really kind of shines. I think you could do a lot too with, just in general, the whole idea of the Empire being all divided, because you could do the same with chaos. You know, who really wants to listen to Abaddon? Or Abaddon, depending on how you pronounce it. I wouldn't. I'd be like, dude, I don't care. Black Legion can suck it, you know? I was gonna say, like, Nurgle for life, yo. That kind of stuff. Death Guard gang for life, or... Thousand Suns. You know, do these guys really want to listen to Abaddon? Or are they just kind of like, yeah, he's an ass, but we're all just kind of following him because he's the only one uniting us? He's not really uniting them for a good reason, it's for his own ambitions. But I could see Chaos, you know, doing as their name implies, and falling into chaos. You know, oh hey, we beat the Empire, now what? And everybody just kind of eyeballing each other like, hey, we don't get along normally. We have no reason to get along anymore. Like, do you expect Thousand Suns and, like, World Eaters to get along now? I wouldn't. Karn is probably eyeballing Magnus the Red, just like, I'm waiting to jump him. That's what I would expect, and that's what I would kind of want to see happen. Just decay into all-out warfare. Everybody just throwing punches left and right. Hasty alliances that are formed for months, if not weeks, and then dissolving because whatever goal has been met. Give the Tau something to do, because I don't remember the last time they did anything. And this would be a good time to introduce the Leagues of Votan. You know, oh hey, we were... This group of Space Marines or whatever were looking for additional worlds that belong to the Empire that we kind of lost contact with, or because this also happens, sometimes planets, even when the Empire didn't have that whole warp storm, they just forgot about planets. There'd just be worlds where they're like, oh yeah, we didn't hear about you for like 2,000 years, we just forgot you existed. You know, that planet could be just fine and dandy, just minding its own business. They just forgot it. And that could easily be a thing, like, oh hey, we didn't realize we had... I don't know what you're gonna call them. I'm just gonna keep calling them squats. Oh hey, I didn't realize we had any, like, squat colonies out here. We thought you guys died. And then them being like, yeah, we get that a lot. And suddenly having this new force to team up with. It'd be cool. They could even... See, we don't know 100% how they're being introduced, so if you wanted to be real wild, you could give them, like, railgun tech and be like, oh hey, these guys have either been fighting the Tau for a long time and have just been swiping their tech, or these guys get along with the Tau and could be one of those kind of between the factions kind of groups where it's like, hey, we get along with the Empire, but we also get along with the Tau because the Tau didn't kill us. It'd be interesting. And it adds a bit more depth and kind of a gray area to the existing story. Because 40K, for all its grim, dark evilness, they don't really do nuance. They just kind of take a faction. They're like, these are bad guys. These bad guys wear skulls. Kill bad guys are bad. Nothing about them is redeemable. Moving on. Except Dark Angels. They actually... Okay, Dark Angels, they put some nuance into them and just made them dicks. They... Some stories have had nuance. I will always refer back to the Fabius Bile story where he clones... He gets a successful clone of... what's his name? He's the Primarch for Emperor's Children. Fulgrim. He gets a perfect clone of Fulgrim. And he ends up sitting there and realizing this clone was already starting to affect the Emperor's Children around him. And he was like, I kind of need to get rid of this guy because he's going to cause problems. Realistically. Because the Emperor's Children will follow him, just like the original. And there is the chance he's either going to go good, because he will learn from his mistakes, or he will fall again. I thought it was really cool. That'd be a great way to throw some more chaos into everything. Just be like, hey, guess who broke out of the, stasis chamber that was set up by, I think, Trazen the Infinite. And suddenly he's out doing stuff. It would be cool. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.